Hello, my name is Andrew Smart, and this is my video presentation and relationship analysis of The Sandlot. The Sandlot is a movie filmed in the mid-90s, set in the San Fernando Valley, California, but it was filmed in Utah. And it's about some kids in the summer of 1962 that have a love for baseball. But the summary of the story is Scotty Smalls moves into the town. He's a new kid, he doesn't have any friends, he's kind of a nerd. He's not athletic at all, wears dorky clothes, doesn't really fit in. It's the summer, so school's not happening. But anyway, he sees this group of kids go and play baseball one day, and he decides to follow them and follows them into where they play baseball, which is called the Sandlot, hence the movie name. And he kind of just stays out on the side and watches them play baseball, just trying to be included. One of his neighbors is Benny, who's kind of the secondary main character in the story, Benny the Jet Rodriguez. And he kind of takes Smalls under his wing, introduces him to all the guys on the team. And so whenever they hit a baseball over the fence, it's a really big deal because they buy their own balls. It's the 60s, they don't have a lot of cash. And this is their pastime, it's baseball. So the game has to end every time they hit a home run, which sucks because they're pretty good and they hit a lot of home runs. He slams his home run with Babe Ruth's name, which is an invaluable piece of history, over the fence, and he realizes that, like, oh man, that was a mistake. And all the guys are like, what happened? He goes, oh, the ball was like my dad's, I don't know. And he was still kind of toying with the idea of who Babe Ruth was, because again, he's a new kid, he doesn't know anything about sports or anything. He's like, oh, this baseball I took from my dad, it was signed by Babe Ruth, somebody named Babe Ruth. And everybody on the team's like, what? And so they all run the fence. You've probably seen the movie. They all freak out, like, oh no, and it's right there. And then the beast snags it, and they all scream and run away and stuff. What ends up happening is Benny the Jet Rodriguez, the secondary figure, gets a dream one night of Babe Ruth coming into his room, and he's like, hey, look, you just gotta pickle the beast. Just run over there and grab it. You're fast. You know what to do. He's like, okay. So that's what ends up happening in the end. Benny jumps over the fence, pickles the beast, gets the ball, runs all through town, destroys a bunch of stuff, and then he runs back to the Sandlot. The ball is destroyed, and so they knock on the door of the beast and like, hey, sorry, your dog got out. And this old guy comes out and he's like, oh, Hercules? Like, I would have gotten for you if you just would have asked. And then it's kind of like funny in the end. I'll get to that again with the relationship analysis map. Old man Myrtle's like, oh, look, I'll trade you that ball for this ball. I'm like, oh, well, this one was signed by Babe Ruth. He's like, oh, so that one was too, along with the other 1927 New York Yankees. So he gives them that ball, and that's what he uses to make amends with his dad, who's had this whole struggle with in the beginning. But the relationships that I wanted to focus on are up on here. So if Smalls, he's the main character, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, Babe Ruth sort of, Old Man Myrtle, parents, and then the friends, and then I just threw in Wendy Peppercorn and Phillips because those are funny. But anyway, Smalls, he's taken in by Benny, and then they have this relationship with Mr. Myrtle and the Beast with the ball. They come back and talk baseball every week with them. But Smalls with his parents, his dad is his stepdad, and he never really calls him dad. He toys with it a little bit. Dad, Bill, you know, it's kind of like the cliche, oh, I'm not gonna call my stepdad Dad, I'm just gonna call him his real name, Bill. So anyway, he always toys with this relationship. It's kind of weird. Bill is trying to teach him how to throw a baseball because he's trying to fit in, trying to, you know, be the new father figure, role model. And I mean, it's the famous scene. He throws a baseball and Smalls catches it and hits his eye, black eye and stuff. But anyway, so this is a weird relationship. He goes out of town, and this is when all this happens with the Beast and stuff. And then, along with all the new kids, the friends, the gang, that's another relationship that he has to kind of work his way into. And then with Babe Ruth, he doesn't know who Babe Ruth is because he's afraid to ask. He's kind of a blue dot, like we talked about in class. Just kind of sits back and listens and like doesn't say anything until like it's very pertinent. Oh, the ball is signed by Babe Ruth, and everybody freaks out, kind of thing. There's a lot of different relationships. Benny has this relationship with Babe Ruth because he's his idol. Benny cares about nothing but baseball, and Babe Ruth is nothing but baseball. So there's that big relationship there. And then I put these two circles up here, which represent the two balls, the original ball signed by Babe Ruth, and then the second one, the Murderers Row baseball, and how they kind of play in this whole relationship web. And what I would recommend these characters to do to make the relationships better with this big complicated web are the following: communication with honesty and trust, forgiveness, and focusing on the love languages, which you kind of see in the movie, and then Smalls being a blue dot and them understanding that as well. So as far as communication goes, this whole thing could have been completely done with if Smalls just would have communicated to the guys, oh, this ball is signed by somebody I'm not sure is Babe Ruth, and so then that wouldn't have happened in the first place. He wouldn't have stolen the ball, wouldn't have hit an open fence, the movie wouldn't have happened. It would have just been, guys playing ball over the summer. So that's the first example of communication. The second would be with his dad, saying like, hey, I don't, trying to amend that relationship as well. The third would be probably the biggest. He stole the ball, he hit over the fence, and then old man Myrtle said, if you just would have come and knocked on the door, I would have gotten the ball for you. So if they just would have, knocked on the door, communicated instead of being little kids and pretending to, try to get the ball back without letting anybody know, then none of the movie would have happened, and everything would have been fine. He would have got the ball back, no harm done. So communication is absolutely key in this web. All these lines would be destroyed without communication, all these connections. Along with communication goes honesty and trust. As we talked about a little bit in class, you need to be honest with people, you need to have trust. I guess he trusted his friends to get the ball back, but he kind of lost hope in the end. But that would have helped a lot with his relationships with the gang, because he's such a blue dot. He's not very outgoing, and it's hard for him to make friends, obviously. Because of Benny, he has these friends, but if it wasn't for Benny, that would have happened. And then forgiveness is a huge key as well. We talked about that extensively in class, what real forgiveness looks like. And as far as old man Myrtle forgiving them for messing up the backyard and hurting his dog, he looked past that because he was like, look, may have temporarily done some damage, but I'm going to take these kids under my wing and it's going to be great. And so he forgave them immediately, which is a great example. And then also this kind of segues into the love languages as well. Bill, Scotty Smalls' dad, forgiving Smalls for what he did. Forgiveness is one thing. He's also trying to be a parent son, but forgiveness is one thing that he shows Scotty Smalls because of some of the things that Scotty Smalls does, which is kind of the segue into the love languages, which we're reading that book, but the two I want to focus on are as time well spent and gifts. So, focusing on this example is the gift one. He gives, Smalls gives the old baseball and the Murderers Row baseball, which is way more cool and pricey and valuable than the original Babe Ruth ball. But he gives this baseball from Old Man Myrtle to his dad to say, I'm sorry, look, I messed up, I didn't realize what I did, I stole your baseball, but here's your baseball back. I know it's messed up, but here's one that's signed by Babe Ruth as well, and the other 1927 New York Yankees Murder Row participants. And Bill is like, wow, this is awesome, and he still grounds him, but he forgives him in the end. So, but none of this would happen again, like I said, without this first part, communication. I think it's really interesting. The whole movie is about miscommunication. And then time well spent. The relationship that Scotty Smalls has with Benny, the relationship he has with Old Man Myrtle in the end, the relationship he has with his mom and partially his dad, which he's working on, and all the guys is time spent. That's his main love language. He wants to fit in, he wants to feel part of the team, and that's how they build this relationship, is they spend time with him over the summer. His mom really pushes Bill to spend time with Scott in the backyard, throwing the baseball around. That's how he builds these relationships in the whole movie. And I think that it would be very advantageous if he were to have known about the other love languages. I know he's a new kid and stuff, but if he would have been receiving these other love languages, he would have been able to build these relationships in a stronger way, and maybe he would have been able to communicate better. He would have been able to been forgiven faster. He would have been put in these difficult situations. At the same time, I think there's a lot of complex relationships that maybe weren't intentionally written into the movie, but then happen within the movie, which you see here. That's my presentation for the Sandlot.